and 2. They stack the line of scrimmage. There's Dom Hill. There he goes. Dom Hill 40. Dom Hill 30. Downhill Dom Hill. Touchdown. 61 yards.
Smoky.com presents the Texas High School Football Show on 365 Sports. Brought to you by Peter Chevrolet.
Medlock, they fake it to him. James Keeper off the left side, breaks the tackle, into the secondary, skips away, and he will score. Touchdown, Duncanville.
Here's David Smoke.
Welcome to the final week. Man, this is, it's been a season. I say it's flown by, but it's methodical. 17 weeks of a season for those that started back in the last week in August, and here we are with state championship weekend that opens up on Wednesday at AT&T Stadium in Arlington. Some of the games that caught my attention last week, and then I got a stat for you on what two teams that are playing this week, the numbers of points they have scored and the numbers of where they might be all-time in Texas. But Duncanville, South Lake Carroll. We had Reggie Samples and Riley Dodge on the show this year. And Duncanville just hammered South Lake Carroll. I thought that would be a much more competitive game, but the Duncanville program, they're just rolling, and they roll right into the state championship game against a team they've met before, twice before, in North Shore out of Galena Park. How about Falls City beating Mart in Class 2A Division II? We've had Kevin Hoffman on the show from Mart. And last year they lost in the state championship game to Windthorst when Windthorst missed an extra point, but Mart was offsides. Windthorst went for 2 and scored to win the game outright. It was a stunning loss, and Mart was going for their 4th consecutive state title. And this year they're knocked out in the semifinals. Anytime they're knocked out, it's a surprise. Falls City 24-20. Austin Westlake at McLean Stadium where Baylor plays. They jumped all into Katie's business from day one, from the moment that game started. Never gave them a chance against a proud Katie team. And Westlake hammered them. A couple of inner city schools in LBJ and Austin making a run after a dramatic last, 11 seconds left of the game on a touchdown pass to beat Chapel Hill, which was a great story in what they've done with a very young team. And then also South Oak Cliff in the state championship game representing Dallas ISD, and they will now face Liberty Hill in the 5A Division II state championship game. Now, here's a stat. These are the all-time most points scored in a single season by football programs in Texas. Single season. Aledo, 1,023. Gilmer, they're playing against China Spring on Friday for the 4A Division II title. That's back in 14. Jeff Traylor, now the head coach at UT San Antonio, coached that team. You see Navasota, Refugio, and Mart a couple of different times. Aledo again at number 9. Mart again. But look at numbers 11 and 12. Westlake enters this game against Geyer. 868 points scored, which is right outside number 10, but really the way they score points, and again, Geyer's very good, but Westlake is just beating everybody up. They could jump all the way into the top 4 or 5 if they have the kind of game that they, of course, have had throughout the year, and Geyer will say, wait a minute, let's not forget about us. And then Franklin. Talk about beating people up. They had a game early where they beat Lorena. Lorena's in the state championship. We featured them a couple of weeks ago. Franklin, they've been just mauling people. They had a couple of games in which they scored 28 points, including last week when they beat Wascom. If they have a big game, and it won't be easy coming up in the state championship game, look where they are, right on the edge of being a part of the top 10. And that's another program that last year lost the state championship game with a touchdown in the final 25 seconds and an extra point. They had missed an extra point themselves when they had taken the lead, and they play for the state championship, and we will feature Franklin Lions head coach Mark FANNIN. So there we are with some of those teams that, in fact, have had amazing years in the past, and also a couple entering the state championship weekend. When we come back, we'll hear from Franklin football coach Mark FANNIN on the Lions back for their 3rd state championship appearance in the last, 5 or 6 years in back-to-back. How they've overcome the dramatic ending and the loss last year to being back where they are this week. That plus China Spring football coach Brian Bell on the Texas High School Football Podcast, brought to you by Peter Chevrolet.
All roads lead to your largest selection of pre-owned in East Texas. 3306 West Grande in Tyler. It's time for a car buying experience you will enjoy at Peters Auto Sports. Cars from ultimate luxury to affordable economy, trucks from work to play to all-out adventure. Come by 3306 West Grande in Tyler or visit us online at Peters Auto Sports and take advantage of our nationwide delivery. It's all here. Peters Auto Sports in Tyler.
For a limited time, refinance your vehicle and have 90 days with zero payments. Only at Genco FCU. Refinancing lowers your rate and you pay less for your car. You can't pass on rates as low as 1.75% for 48 months. Apply online today.
Annual percentage rate subject to change without notice. Subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. Go to GencoFCU.org. NCUA Equal Housing Lender.
My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Joined by Franklin High School football coach Mark FANNIN. What a run. Mark, here you are on the cusp of a state championship. Franklin's been in this position a couple of times, once as an assistant, then last year in that game with Canadian. What has been the mentality of this team? Because it seems as if you've just been a sledgehammer from day one.
Yeah, the mentality has been unbelievable. Losing in that game last year and being so close, these kids being so close to winning it, just seconds away. These kids ever since that game has been, their mindset have been very businesslike and very self-motivated. And when you have a group of kids like that that worked hard all summer long, that worked hard all last off season. And then this year's football season, just them coming out each and every week, wanting to get better, loving practice. When you have a group that loves to come to practice, that obviously helps as a coach. It's been special to watch.
You opened up. Last year you lost games early to Lorena and of course, Yo. And this year you beat Lorena 27-20. You knew they were better. You know what Ray Biles does, and he knows what you've done in your long time at Franklin. Did you ever think that you would be playing in the same week for a state championship 17 weeks later?
Well, I knew Lorena had a special team, and we were very fortunate to get that win week one. Anytime you play Coach Biles and the Lorena Leopards, it's going to be a ball game, and you never know what's going to happen. I respect that program, respect Coach Biles more than a lot of people know, but he does a good job, and I'm excited for him to get there, and I hope they can bring it home. But I knew they had a good team early, and I've been rooting for them ever since.
So you talked about how this team took last year and just ran with it, and leadership from within. It's not as if you didn't have to coach or your staff, but what does that say about your leadership that they did? Because sometimes something like that can just crush a team, and they can live with it to the point where they live with it so much. So what does that say about the internal leadership you mentioned?
Yeah, it is the leadership on this team. We're senior heavy this year, and for the most part last year we were a pretty young team, I say. But how these kids responded to last year, what happened last year, and they their mindset of getting back. It starts with that leadership group on this football team, and it's been great. The kids, have bought into that. The kids that are not the true leaders, they listen to these guys that are getting them hyped up every day and telling them, it's just a special thing to see in the locker room and on the field, and how it's all come together this year. And I think that's a big key to our success is the leadership.
when you look at what you've done, you had that game with Lorena, and other than that, really, you haven't. Not that you weren't pushed a little bit by Yo, but you blew that one open. And then last week, Wascom, we know how good Whitney Keeley's team is, and what they do offensively that's so special. When you go through a season when you're putting up staggering margin of victory, is there ever a point as a coach where you wonder if you're maybe getting challenged enough to get better each week?
Yeah, it's definitely, a little worrisome as a coach, because, last year we had to face a lot of adversity, going 0-2, starting the season, losing a game due to COVID, losing kids from COVID, and we had tons of ups and downs. We were, losing in a couple at halftime in a couple games last year, and we had to come back and win. We faced adversity many times last year, and this year, we didn't really have any adversity thrown our way, and I was worried of how we were going to face that. And I'm so glad we had to face them last week against Wascom, a very good Wascom team. That was a very physical football game, and it was anybody's game up to the fourth quarter, and these kids handled it, overcame many adversity situations, and it was good to see as a coach.
You can help me out here. Franklin's been deep in the playoffs a lot. Have you guys played Gunner?
We have never played Gunner.
Okay. I was wondering, of course, they've got a great history as well. They're 15-0. You look at the numbers. They have 776 points scored. You've scored 862. What in the world? I mean, that's like you're in the top 10 for most points scored ever in a single season. Does that matter? Is that even something that registers with you?
It hasn't. It hasn't really registered at all. I knew that, we were scoring a lot of points, and it's been fun to watch. But I haven't realized that really until you just really said that. But but it's fun to watch, and especially the style we do it, and Gunner does it too. Is running the football.
Yep.
And scoring that many points running the football is pretty special, and it's really fun to watch. So, in my opinion, I know some people don't like it, but in my opinion, that's the only way to go. And I think it teaches your kids to be tough and gets their mindset right. And we've been pretty successful at it.
Well, I'll tell you this, Mark, I'm old school. I understand the passing game, and it can be beautiful as well. But what I noticed, even when everything went to the wide open air raid or spread or whatever it was, that the rushing yards have exploded with that, because it's all about spacing. It's not just the passing game, it's also the jet sweep, and it's, when the game was all kind of bunched up, when people had two tight ends or maybe a wide receiver. Why do you think that is? Because, I know you guys can open it up, but it seemed like the rushing yards are those type of numbers are just as explosive as the passing yards.
Yeah, I think everybody, when they went to that spread, stuff, is kind of new, and they kind of, just kind of opened it up and kind of went with it. But having that balanced defense or balanced offense, is important in some cases, But that running attack, it's you got to be able to run the football to win football games, and I think that's a very important piece.
You've been there since 2007. That's your alma mater. You were an assistant with Coach Hedrick for a long, long time. What did he teach you? What did you, other than just marinate everything in your body and shoot it in like an IV, what did you learn about him? What did you learn about football and coaching through him?
Well, I learned one of the main things I learned about Coach Mike is just the loyal piece. With him and his staff, his coaching mindset of just being, he was an old school football coach, which I was always ate up with and I was intrigued by, and his toughness that he taught his players, and his discipline was one of the main things. The discipline that he had each and every year by his players and how his teams played. It goes a long ways, and I am just so thankful that that I had the opportunity to learn from Coach Hedrick and be around him for 14, 15 years, however long it was, and to learn from him. He is a true legend to me. He's a true legend to a lot of people around this state, and I'm just blessed that I had the opportunity to learn from him.
You know what? He left you with a pretty good cupboard, huh? It got a lot of.
He did.
Yeah, and a lot of times coaches will tap that thing and walk away if they see that it's a drought. And he left us maybe at the peak of Franklin football. Not that there haven't been other peaks. So you've been there 2 years. You're 28-2. And I'm sure you think of the 2 losses to Lorena, and then of course the gut-wrenching loss to Canadian. 28-2. Could you ever have fathomed that kind of success early on?
No, sir, I didn't. You know, and it's no secret solution that I'm putting together or whatever. You know, it starts with my coaching staff. I truly believe I have the best coaching staff in the state that I can rely on, the loyal group of guys that love the game of football. You know, when you have your basketball coach bought into your football program, that's always a good thing. So, you know, and your baseball coach is your offense coordinator, you know. So, you know, it's good, and it starts with those guys that put many hours in, and if I weren't here, I know it'd get run right. And also it obviously starts with the kids too that you got. I got a great group of kids, a great group of athletes. I got a hard-nosed group of kids that are tough, that learn to be tough and play the game right, how it's supposed to be played. So, you know, I'm just blessed with great coaches and great athletes and great kids, and I'm just happy to be here.
2 15-0s, Franklin and Gunner, class on Thursday night, 7 o'clock for the 3A Division II State Championship. Mark Fannin, thank you, Mark. Appreciate your time.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Franklin's Mark Fannin on the Texas High School Football Statewide Podcast, brought to you by Peter Chevrolet.
All roads lead to your largest selection of pre-owned in East Texas. 3306 West Grande in Tyler. It's time for a car buying experience you will enjoy at Peter's Auto Sports. Cars from ultimate luxury to affordable economy, trucks from work to play to all-out adventure. Come by 3306 West Grande in Tyler or visit us online at Peter's Auto Sports and take advantage of our nationwide delivery. It's all here. Peter's Auto Sports in Tyler.
For a limited time, refinance your vehicle and have 90 days with zero payments. Only at Genco FCU. Refinancing lowers your rate and you pay less for your car. You can't pass on rates as low as 1.75% for 48 months. Apply online today.
Annual percentage rate subject to change without notice. Subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. Go to GencoFCU.org. NCUA Equal Housing Lender.
My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
China Spring head football coach Brian Bell joins us again on the Texas High School Football Podcast on the week of the state championship. And my goodness, Brian, you're here. Gilmer, state championship game Friday afternoon. When we spoke with you earlier, you knew you were really good. You still had some things you had to deal with. Why this team? Why is this team in a position to win a state championship at China Spring for the first time in over 40 years?
Well, I think it's a lot of different things, but number one, I think it comes down to these guys have earned it. You know, they worked hard, they put in the work. Not just this year, or this past off season, but their entire lives. This is kind of obviously this is what they've been working for, especially our senior class. But also just how coachable they are, how disciplined they are, and how mature they are. They want this really, really bad. And I've never been around a group of young men that just all together want something. You know, like want it bad, and kind of makes them dangerous. And they're all on the same page. They're all best friends with each other. And it's been exciting to see them kind of come together this year. And and put a good product out on the field.
You had adversity when that game with West Orange Stark didn't start the way you wanted, but I thought that showed a great amount of character, resiliency. Like you mentioned, everybody, hey, we're okay. It's a 48-minute game. And there's been a couple of other things along the way. It hadn't just been a free pass, but what did you learn about them early on with that start against West Orange Stark?
Absolutely. Our defense has always been good. This entire year they've been consistent, giving us momentum for the offense side of the ball, and just being really consistent over there, playing hard and getting us the ball back, like I said. But early in that game, just those 3 turnovers were so uncharacteristic, and it just happened to give us some adversity. But for us to come out and pulled out that win, I think it was really good just for the maturity of our team. Like you said, it wasn't a free pass during the regular season or anything, but we didn't find much adversity. There wasn't many negative things that kind of happened to us. So really just try to talk to our guys, and our coaches talk to our guys like, hey, adversity is going to strike. We got to be mature. We got to make sure that our head's screwed on right. Make sure we're making good decisions and little things like that. And when adversity struck, our guys responded perfect.
China Spring, I mentioned 1978. That's the year they beat Lexington 42-3. And then it was 2007, played for a state title. Then there was the game, I want to think it was like in 2016-17 or so, in that 4 overtime game in the semifinals where it looked like you were on the verge of going. Your father was still the head coach at that time, and you were on that staff. And you've been knocking on the door. And you have beaten some brand-name teams. Carthage, West Orange Stark, Sealy, among others. In fact, of course, now you have Gilmer. You don't play the logo or the name of the jersey, but how impressive is that you guys have been able to beat some teams that have been really good for a long time?
Yeah, when you play good football like our kids are playing right now, and for the past couple of years, you're going to have the opportunity for to play some good programs. And when you get deep in the playoffs, that's going to happen. And so just really proud of our guys, proud of our coaches for really not batting an eye in those situations. But we've really been focused on ourselves this year and really trying to make sure that we're playing our best game because, it really doesn't matter who you play. It's about how you play when you play them. And so that we really taking a lot of pride in that saying. And our kids really bought into our 1-0 mindset of taking it 1 week at a time. Obviously last year Carthage knocked us out of the playoffs, and that was a game that we were hoping we'd have the opportunity to play in this year. But we knew we weren't going to have that opportunity if we looked too far ahead because another team could beat us. So, we're just trying to fight for that 1-0 mindset, and our guys have bought in, like I said. And I'm just so proud of these kids and for how they've been so mature this year. And no matter what happens this Friday at 3:00, there's going to be a year to remember forever.
Your defense, you mentioned them early. Man, they are playing great football. They are playing fantastic football to a man. That's from playing a lot of games together. That's from playing good people. Are they playing even at a better level, Brian, than you thought they could?
Without question. We lost some key parts to our defense. They graduated last year with a strong senior class, and some guys needed to step up this offseason. And there were a lot of different guys that needed to change positions or kind of find a way to get on the field, and they kind of fit their roles. And I just kudos to our defensive coaches for putting guys in positions to be successful and finding out what their strengths are and playing to those strengths. And just really proud of our staff for the work that they've done. And something else that's been really good to us that no one really knows about, obviously, but is just the consistency of our coaches. We have 100% retention from our coaching staff from last year to this year, and I think that says a lot just about China Spring ISD, the quality of life our administration allows us to have, and the coaches want to be here. This isn't like a stepping stone program. This is somewhere you want to be forever, and so it's just really neat to see kind of the consistency that we can have from year to year when that happens. Yeah,
and it's been a pretty good year for the Bell family, right? With what Sean's been able to do at Baylor, the quarterback's coach at Baylor, with what he did with Gary Bohannon and Blake Shapen. Do you guys have a lot of time to talk much at all during the year?
Not a ton. I'm busy most of the time, and Sean's extremely busy, but we get to talk quite a bit, like whether Sean's driving home late on a Tuesday, Wednesday night, he'll give me a call, or we definitely talk after his Baylor games on Saturdays and stuff like that. But I'm so proud of him, and I love him so much, and there's no doubt in my mind he's one of the best offensive minds, not only in the state of Texas, but in the country. And so I'm just so proud of him and the development he's made as a coach. And I'm just thankful he's kind of poured into me over the last couple of years and pushing me to be a better coach. And it's been really, really cool seeing our relationship grow. And and proud of his success.
Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine has a Mr. Texas Football. Your quarterback in Major Bowden is on that list, and so is Gilmer's quarterback in Brandon Tedison, who was there when they played Carthage in the state championship last year. Very consistent as well. Major Bowden, when I first saw him, I'm not saying others don't count. They all do. But he seems to be the straw that stirs the drink for you. Can you try to tell me when you first realized he had this ability to be a leader and one hell of a quarterback running your offense?
Yeah, so when he moved here as a sophomore, just kind of the way he carried himself, when he had the ball in his hands, he was so electric. And, he kind of put him in the quarterback position a little bit that sophomore year, and he made some big-time plays, but it just kind of wasn't sure if he could do it full-time, I didn't know if that's something the step he could make, but he worked his absolute tail off, earned the respect of his teammates, learned the offense, took complete control of everything that was going on, and obviously we went from 4-8 to 10-3 as him as a starter as a junior, and then go to where we are right now, I guess 15-0 as a senior. And so just the development he's made and how much work he's put in, there's no doubt in my mind he should win the Mr. Football Award. When you think of Texas high school football, you think of a guy who's tough. You think of a guy who runs well, who's exciting when the ball's in his hands. You think about all those things, and he is Mr. Football. And whether he wins it or not, he's going to be Mr. Football in everybody in China Spring community's eyes. He's a heck of a football player, heck of a young man. And I'm glad he's one of ours.
Two more questions. Brian Bell from China Spring. Gilmer, they have a great history and tradition. Jeff Traylor built that program to what it was. He's now a college coach at UT San Antonio. Alan Metzel takes over. They've had kind of a Matt Turner was right after Jeff Traylor. Your thoughts about Gilmer? They used to be a team that would just overwhelm you from the second the game would start with offense, but they seem to have gotten to be a team with a little bit more defensive mentality as well.
I mean, they can do whatever they want. Offensively, they throw the mess out of it. They can run it when they want to. They're just so high-powered and so kind of explosive offensively. They got some big-time playmakers on the perimeter with some big-time receivers. Their quarterback is no doubt the best offense and best quarterback and receivers we've seen all year long. And they're going to present a lot of problems for us, so we're going to have to be ready to play. And then vice versa, like you said, on defense, they do a great job, play fast, physical, big guys. And like I said, they're going to present some problems for us. So there's no doubt the best team we've seen, but that's all you can ask for in a state championship is playing against a good team. And we're just looking to go out there and try to play our best game and hopefully, like I said earlier, just go 1-0.
What is more nervous? You coaching a team in the state championship, let's say the night before, or when you take the field on Friday, or you quarterbacking a team in a national championship game in college?
I'd say quarterbacking. I think actually having to go out there and do it is one thing. Right now I just get to sit back and watch our guys go out there and put on a show for everybody. So I'd say definitely when you're in the game, it's a lot more nervous. But it's been a blast watching these guys go out there and perform. And I've been nervous going into games this year, time and time again, and they keep proving me right. And they keep being ready to play and starting fast and doing all the little things right. So might as well trust them week 16. What do you say?
Yeah, and I will end it with this. Isaiah Williams, your running back who stepped up last week after your Barton went down. How much did he show you with what he was able to do, and you rely on him now?
Absolutely. There's going to be a lot of different people that have the opportunity on Friday, and Isaiah is a heck of a talent, and that's no secret to anybody in our football program. He's got the best hands I've ever seen. Catches the ball so well. And then obviously you see him with the ball in his hands. He's explosive and super, super dynamic. And it doesn't matter if he's running inside the tackles. It doesn't matter if he's on the edge. He's just a heck of a playmaker. And so he's had a lot of development this past year. And he's really taken his body to a new level with working out and speed and little things like that. And he's earned everything he's getting right now.
Thank you, Brian. Good luck Friday. It's Brian Bell, head football coach at China Spring. They're playing for a state championship at AT&T Stadium Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock, where the Cowboys, of course, play. And we're state championship week to wrap up the season in 2021. Brian Bell, China Spring football coach. We'll come back and wrap up our last show of this season. Smoky.com's high school football podcast continues in a moment.
All roads lead to your largest selection of pre-owned in East Texas. 3306 West Grande in Tyler. It's time for a car buying experience you will enjoy at Peters Auto Sports. Cars from ultimate luxury to affordable economy, trucks from work to play to all-out adventure. Come by 3306 West Grande in Tyler or visit us online at Peters Auto Sports and take advantage of our nationwide delivery. It's all here. Peters Auto Sports in Tyler.
For a limited time, refinance your vehicle and have 90 days with zero payments. Only at Genco FCU. Refinancing lowers your rate and you pay less for your car. You can't pass on rates as low as 1.75% for 48 months. Apply online today.
Annual percentage rate subject to change without notice. Subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. Go to GencoFCU.org. NCUA Equal Housing Lender.
My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Welcome back to the final segment of the final show on the final week of the Texas high school football season, and we'll hope to be back again next year. And thanks to Randy Peters and Peters Chevrolet, peterscars.com, for their sponsorship throughout the year. When I called Randy back when we said, hey, we're going to do this, he didn't blink. He loves high school football. He loves the Lobos, but he also loves high school football in general. We've had Todd Dodge, the head coach at Westlake. They're in the state championship game. We've had Reggie Samples, the head coach at Duncanville. They're in the state championship game. Steve Huff, the head coach at College Station. They're in the state championship game. Sterling Doty, the head coach at Stephenville. They're in the state championship game. Coach Finner at Austin LBJ. They're in the state championship game. We have Brian Bell, China Spring. They're in the state championship game. And Mark Fannin today, the head coach, of course, at Franklin. They're in the state championship game. And Ray Biles of Lorena has been on this show this year, and they're in the state championship game. I mean, that's pretty amazing that we've been able to do that from start to finish, and some stories along the way. Now, a couple of notes about state championship week. LBJ out of Austin. You know, when we had Coach Finner on the show, he talked about this, that they were really 4A football numbers, but Austin had made them opt up to play in 5A. Well, they finally were able to get down to Class 4A, and they've been a wrecking machine. And here they are playing for the state championship against Stephenville. It won't be easy, and they were very fortunate to be able to pull out that win last week against Chapel Hill, but here they are. It's the first time that a team from Austin ISD is in the state championship since 1973, when Austin Reagan was in the state championship game. Austin Reagan in 73 lost to John Tyler, led by the great legendary across the board at John Tyler, the University of Texas, and the Houston Oilers, Earl Campbell. Meanwhile, Reagan did win state titles in 67, 68, and 1970, and LBJ shooting to do that. South Oak Cliff, there was 1988 Dallas Carter, the team that won the state title, but they had to have that taken away because of all the stories around academics and things that were happening with that program after they had hammered Judson in the state championship game. So technically, if in fact South Oak Cliff can win this week, they'll be the first team from the city of Dallas to win a state championship from Dallas ISD, inside Dallas ISD, technically, since 1958. But Carter did win it in 1988. Okay, here's the last group of the games. The elite games of the year, thanks to Jerry Forrest and pigskinprep.com. We appreciate Jerry for everything he does. Remember the numbers to the right, and they all should be low. These are state championship games. And really, if you look at, there's no true Cinderella here. 2 losses is the most that anybody has. Look at the first 7 games. All of them have a combined 3 ranking. You know what that means? Yeah, you're talking number 1 against number 2. The last game, Geyer and Westlake, is 8. Westlake's number 1, Geyer is number 7. Now, let's look at who's favored. To the left of the team in dark black, like Brock, the fourth game down, they're a 3-point pick against Lorena. You have Stratford as a short 2-point favorite against Falls City, who upset Mart. Duncanville's a 5-point pick against a team that's beaten them twice in the state title game in North Shore. And then South Oak Cliff, I just mentioned that nugget, against 13-2 Liberty Hill in the 5A game in Division II. The other teams, how about Pato? How about that story? That is Cinderella because they've only been in existence for like a month. Actually, their program is very young. At 14-1, they'll play College Station. We featured Steve Huff. There's the other games. China Spring, LBJ favored by 2. Franklin played in the state championship game last year, lost by a point. Favored by 9. 6-man game with Motley County and Strawn, a pick'em game. May's a heavy favorite. So is Shiner with the Brooks brothers. And Westlake, a 22-point favorite. And Todd Dodge's last game will retire, trying to win his 3rd consecutive state championship with Westlake. But also remember, he won state titles, quite a bit of them, a chunk of them, when he was at South Lake Carroll as well. All right, thanks to Peters Chevrolet, peterscars.com, and Randy Peters. Thanks to Armstrong Sims behind the scene every single week. Thanks to all of the coaches that have been a part of this from day one. As we wrap up the 2021 high school football season, kind of take a deep breath, enjoy the games, and of course then, next thing you know, spring ball. Next thing you know, August workouts in the summer, and then of course also the games will start at the end of August of next year. It's also National Signing Day week, the first of 2 in college football, with the great players signing with colleges around the country. For David Smoke, that's me. For Armstrong Sims, that's him. And for you, our great audience, good night. The last show for this year, the Texas High School Football Podcast, brought to you by Peters Chevrolet, Smoky.com.